Well, welcome everybody tonight. It's so lovely that you're here on the guest speaker call. And through the promoting of this group, you know that I'm inviting an amazing lady to our group of guest speakers. It's Julie Carter, and Julie has shared this concept with me and some other ladies, and we just think it's something that other people need to hear. So I'm going to hand over to Julie. Julie, would love it if you could introduce yourself to us a little bit and your time in Mannatech, and obviously why you're looking into this amazing work. So I'll hand that over to you now, Julie. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, my name's Julie Carter, and I live in South Australia. I live in a little remote rural town. It's only got 44 people in it, north of Port Lincoln. I've been in Mannatech since about before 2007. I'm not just sure which year it was, but quite a long time. And yes, and I'm still here, and I still love it just as much as I did when I first heard about it. So I'll start my talk now. And firstly, I'd like to thank Rachel for asking me to be her guest speaker for tonight's call. I'm excited to be here, and I just hope that what I've got to share tonight, that someone might glean something from it. And what I'll be covering, Rachel asked me to cover, talk a little bit about personal development, so I'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about getting clarity through our mission or vision or our purpose statement, and why knowing what our values are, why that's important, and identifying your roles and putting them in order of importance. We'll talk about written goals and written plans, and then I'll show you how to do the reverse engineering to the to-do list so that the most important things get done. Now, for personal development, for me, personal development means being the best version of me. Or in Rachel's first movie, I just love the words, you know, there was a voice deep inside of me telling me to become more and more of who I am. So to me, that's what personal development is about, is becoming more and more of who I am. Or for those people that have done Andrew Leadham's work, I know Bev and Kim have. I don't know, did you do any of that, Trish? Just give me a wave if you did. No. Well, he was saying, he describes that as being the real me. So whatever term we like, you know, all those things speak to me about what personal development is being the real person. Andrew states many times in his work, there's nothing wrong with you, you're not broken, you never were, so you don't need fixing. And when I heard Andrew say those words, oh, I thought, isn't that good? I don't need fixing. He says you've simply lost your way because of a whole series of damaging and limiting thoughts that block your natural success mindset. These have all been taught and programmed into us, you know, throughout our lifetime by our parents, by our teachers, and just by society. Personal development is, for me, is unlearning, or at least being aware of the limited toxic thinking and beliefs that do not serve me well. Around 13 years ago, I did my first ever paid for personal development courses. There were 4 of these courses, and it was done by a company called Clemmer and Associates, and they were from the US. And Bev, I see you nodding. Did you do any of the Clemmer work? Yeah. And these 4 courses, the first one was short, but it added on to the next one. They were all very different. And this work exposed lots of things for me that I was not aware of. I discovered I'd been living my life out of false choice. I was getting results, but playing not to lose. I did not want to fail or make a mistake. I was not making choices for myself. They were based on the expectation of others. I did things so people would like me. I was very needy of other people's approval. Operating under this false choice, I often felt used and did things because I felt I should or I had to. Now, when I hear myself talk and I'm talking to myself, oh, I should go and do that, or I have to do this, I think, now, Julie, are you in true choice? Are you choosing to do it, or are you feeling obligations from an outside force that's not within what I'm choosing to do? So if a should or a had comes up, that sort of signals a bit of a red flag for me. It is hard to see our own blind spots, and I was seeing myself as unworthy and undeserving. In January, I started another series of personal development courses with Paul Blackburn, and this came about because we had Andrew Leadham do that work, and then I got his book and I loved his work and I loved his book and I wanted to go on more, but I wasn't quite sure just how to go about, doing your mission statement and your values and all that. I just sort of needed a bit of help. And anyway, Paul Blackburn turned up, and he was someone that I knew from years ago. I'd heard about him. I didn't know of his work, but I happened to be watching one of my one of the farming groups that I've joined on Facebook. They had Paul as a guest speaker, and he was talking about what to do when you feel stuck. So I thought, oh, that'd be interesting. So I watched it, and then I really liked what I heard and liked his style. And then a bit later on Facebook, it popped up again, Paul Blackburn, and he was doing a 21-day habit change. I thought, oh, yeah, I'll have a go at that. So I joined that up for that one, and that has led to the next course that he does, and now I'm on the final course that he does. And through that work, I have just learnt so much. So this work has taken me deeper than anything I have experienced before. He's teaching us to be our own coach. One of the things he's teaching us is to sit with a bad or uncomfortable feeling, as quite often there is a lesson to be learned. And if we don't take the lesson and learn from it when it comes up, it will just keep appearing until you do. He calls these red flags, and he sort of taught us to be aware and observe when our red flags up and to take notice of them. When one of these come up, when one of these come up, to be the observer of what's going on for us. So we're sort of looking at our behaviour and our thoughts, but there's no judgment. So you're just looking and having an awareness of what's going on. And then he taught us a process to go through when one of these come. And you sit with it, you put a name on the emotional feeling, identify in your body where you're experiencing it, and uncover the story that you've made up around this. And also then think about, well, what is the meaning that I've put on this story? And then finally, after you've done all that work, then ask yourself, well, what lessons have I learned from this? So I'm going to give you a Mannatech experience of mine. And I've just worked through this because Rachel asked me to talk about it. And I thought, oh, well, I'll do the process and I'll work through this. So the other day I was decluttering my filing cabinet, and I came to a Mannatech file with all the paper applications in it from when I first started building my Mannatech business. So that was back in 2007 was the date, the oldest date I found. I immediately felt a heavy feeling of dread come over me. It had been giving me bad vibes for years, and I would just put it away and hope that it would just disappear and, not come again. But of course it does. But as Paul keeps telling us, if we don't take the lesson, it will keep appearing until we do. Another saying comes to mind from the Clemmer work, and they always used to say, well, suffering is optional. So you don't have to suffer, just go and deal with it and, you know, get the suffering over and done with. The names I came up with to describe how I was feeling were dread, embarrassment, and shame. And it was a tight, heavy feeling on my chest and my gut. The story I was telling myself is that I was a failure and a fraud in my Mannatech business because there are only a handful of these people left in my organisation today. And I had the proof of that right there in my filing cabinet. I was embarrassed recalling how I hunted a lot of these people just to reach a goal that was part of one of the personal development courses I was doing at the time. I was feeling the shame of the follow-ups that I didn't do and the shame of my wrong motives of how I, signed these people up. And also part of my story was that I'm sure that I was the only Mannatech person who had ever experienced and, had this experience. And because I wanted to appear that I had it all together, I'd better keep it under wraps. So that's a terrible story that I was telling myself. The meaning that I put on this story is that I'm only good enough and worthy when my business was growing. All my self-worth and identity was around achievement. And if an associate or a customer stopped ordering, it was my fault. So how about that for a terrible story? But that's what was hiding on this in this file. That was I had a really heavy feeling about. So I had to bring it out into the open and expose it for what it was. So what have I learned from this? I now understand what had been holding me back from going through these old application forms and adding these to my list of contacts. I know by always coming from a place of service and giving value to my associates and customers, my motives and intentions will be congruent with my mission and my values. I have learned that developing a deep, strong connection with my customers and associates is far more important to me than reaching the next level. I have learned keeping shame covered up is not healthy for any area in my life. When I feel grumpy, irritable, snappy, moody, and hard to be around, I know that I have probably been hard on myself. And I take the time to do some journaling to what is actually going on for me. It is an opportunity for the inner parent to open up doors of compassion, to softness, to healing, forgiveness, and to bring the best out of myself, which affects those around me. Loving ourselves is the best thing we can do for those around us. Rachel has created that beautiful document that she has named Life of Clarity, Confidence and Calm. She has the ability to put the right words together. That is exactly what this process that I'm about to show you now as we go through our the mission, the values, the roles and the goals. That's what getting my mission statement and all these things together. It's taken me from confusion and overwhelm to the clarity, confidence and calm. So thank you very much, Rachel, for putting those three words together. It just fits beautifully. When I feel myself getting out of balance, all it takes is to go back and review these again. Doing this work has taken a lot of time and effort and soul searching, and I have found it a challenge, but it has been very worthwhile. So now I'll go to sharing, screen sharing, Rachel.
Just roll your mouse down to the bottom of the screen. The toolbar should pop up.
I reckon here. Oh yeah, no, I think I've got it now. Yeah.
Yep. Wonderful.
Okay. So just I don't know, has anyone actually got a mission statement or a vision statement? Like, has anyone ever done that? Just give a little, just wave me your hand or something.
Yeah, sort of half. Yeah.
Have you, Rachel?
Yes, I have in the past, and it was sort of along the lines of my role as a wife. You know, as a Proverbs 31 woman, that I would have a home-based industry to supplement my husband's income, so that I could stay at home. So it was that's been that long ago, though. I haven't sort of done a new one for a while.
At one of the personal development ones, that's what we went. The course was called Heart, and we were to take our heart and leave our head home. And they assured us that when we came home, we would know what our purpose in life was. Well, I found all that very confusing, and I had no idea what they meant, but I'll show you what I came home with. Oh, I might not be able to do this. I'll just read it anyway. It's in a framed. My purpose in life is to touch other people's lives in such a way that it changes theirs for the better. So that was one I did, all those years ago. But since doing Paul's work, I wanted to have a mission statement that was had a bit more energy to it, and words, I find it a bit hard to find the right words to put them together. So Paul had a book that Rachel gifted to me, and he had a group of mission statements in there. So my mission statement is from Paul's book, but I just went through them all and just found one that spoke to me. So that is the vision statement or the mission statement that I've used. And then talking about our values, and that was another thing that it's really important to know what our values are. Like, we have values, but to actually put a name to them and to write them down in a list, and even try to prioritize those values. And I don't know whether you girls notice it or not, but when we thank Sharon for doing what she does for the Saturday morning calls, she'll always say, I've heard her quite often say that contribution is one of her highest values. So obviously, she has done the work and she knows what her values are. So there's one value that I want to add to my list, and I haven't quite found the right word for it yet, and I want it to fit around being an organic girl home on the farm, and around compost and regenerative farming methods and looking after the soil. And I just haven't found that word yet, but I know that that's an important part in me, and it's part of my being. So that needs to be on my value list, because that is very important to me. And when we choose better values, we are able to divert our energy and focus toward the things that matter. This can improve our state of our own well-being, and that generates happiness, pleasure, and success as a side effect. So if we know what our values are, and we're operating within those values, we'll just they just fit within who we are and we're congruent then with what we're doing. And then the next thing is the roles. So, we know that we're a wife and you're a mum and you're busy and you're doing all these things. And if you write down all your roles, but you can don't go too far that you get overwhelmed in all these roles, because it can be a bit overwhelming. And Paul advised, just to pick, a handful of them and then put them down in a priority. And when Paul was teaching this lesson, he said that his wife Mary he's a husband, and that was his highest priority, was his husband, and that was higher than being a father. And like he and Mary, they're busy people, and they make time together every week, and it's really important to them. So with your roles, and what it did for me, it made me, I've always sort of been really torn about where does Mannatech sit in, how much time do I give Mannatech, and where does it sit within my priorities. And when I really sat with my roles and looked at that, being an entrepreneur, that was sort of down on my list a bit. So I thought, it's important for me to put those other things that are more important in front of Mannatech when I need to. So that was really helpful. And then I thought about my goals. Well, I had written them down, but just to put them like I have in this form, my farming goals, I've sort of been working on those to make a little statement around those. That took me a little while. And from Rachel's training, well, I just, that was an easy one, because the 3 connections a day, and I've got my little pod going, so I just need to find 2 business leaders. So that one was easy. And then, of course, there's our plan for those things. And then we get to the to-do list. So you can see that screen okay, can't you? Yeah. So this is, start with this piece of this document, and just write your to-do list down, the things on your list. So pick, I don't know what's that, 8 or 10 things there on the list. And then we go and we have to assess, put a rating on them. So the ease of doing them. So 1 is really easy and 10 is the hardest. So number 10 is going to be that hardest thing, like they talk about eating your frogs, or I don't know what that saying is, eating your green frogs or something. So that's failure number 10. So the scariest and the hardest thing for you to do goes to number 10. So I must have been feeling in a bit of trepidation that day about who I had to make my 3 calls to. So that was my number 10. And at the time I was in the 21-day habit change, and meditating and journaling was something that I was committing to every day. And so that was meditating was number 9. It was summertime when I did this, and I had to fill the tank on the trailer so to take the sheep some water. So that one was up there, and journaling number 7. And so then I went on down the list. So that's what you do. The easiest to do is number 1, the hardest is number 10. So then the next thing to do is to go on this side and decide what impact that action's going to have. Well, the greatest, if I didn't water the sheep, the sheep were going to be in trouble, and that was my highest priority, was to get the water to the sheep for that day. And then I went down the list and listed all the other, I was going to say, yeah, so list all those. Then the next step is to get those things from there and put them on to the transfer grid. So I'm going to go backwards and forwards here a little bit. So it's ease along the bottom and the importance on the left. So if you see A was 10 in importance and 8 is in ease. So 10 in importance. So it was important, number 10, and the ease was 8. So it goes up into there. And so you just do that, just transfer those to each one. B was to journal, and that was an 8 and a 7. So there's B. Ease was 7, and of importance was 8. So once you've done all those and entered them onto this grid, then you go up to the right-hand corner, and whatever appears in the right-hand corner, and if you could make an arc like that, those 3 things are the most important things to get done first, and then you make another arc and it comes around, and then it's B, and then it's G. And then you come down here, and then you just list those jobs again in their right order of priority. So once I'd done that, so I looked at my list and I thought, right, meditate's the first thing I've got to do. So I quickly did that, got that one off the list, went and filled the water tank, came back, got that one off the list, and then did my 3 connections. And instead of thinking about, oh, I've got all these jobs to do, what will I do, and get distracted, I had my list, so I knew exactly what I had to do, just go and do the first one, cross it off, then go and look what the second one is. So then there's a bit of a question that you need to answer for yourself once you've made your list. And if you do these things on the list, will it move me towards or away from my mission? So that's why it's important to have a mission statement. And is it going to carry me forward to living my values? Sorry, there's another little checklist Paul got us to go through. So the core values, knowing what you believe, what you value, and what you stand for, it's like your internal compass and a measuring system. And there's a bit of a checklist here. Is your list up to date? Do your loved ones know what's on your list? And my family don't. So that's one thing I'll do, is show them what I've got on my list. And who else should know? And I thought about that today. And I shared, well, Kelly should know and Judy Abbott should know. They're my upline, so they need to know. And when will you next update it? So Paul said at least a couple of times a year, you need to review these things and do an update. And he said, because as you go along and you grow, things change, and you might be working, your mission might change a little bit. I'll just wait and see. Well, I already want to change one of my values, so obviously they do as well. And then there's your goals and your priorities. Where are you going and what are you doing with your life? That's a good question. What is on the 5 to the 10-year horizon? Well, I haven't done any work in that area to answer those questions. Do your goals contribute to living authentically you? do you know why you're working so hard now? And is it worth it? And the current projects, I thought, well, I haven't got any current projects at the moment, but then I thought, well, yes, I have really in Mannatech, because of that a guest speaker, Dr. Marcia Schaefer, I want to send out that an email to as many people as I can, and keep going through my list, and just as people come up that I feel like I'd like to send that to. So I thought, well, that's one of my little current projects that I've got on the go. Highly successful people always know the next step, and thank you again, Rachel, to your training and all that you've done there, because that's really helped me with that. The next piece of the puzzle and how it fits to complete the picture. And the daily musts, and this gets back again to our daily to-do list. Success depends on knowing these actions in advance and placing them in the schedule. And this is where the rubber hits the road, is what you are doing, delivering on all the 4 levels. So that's just a bit of a checklist that you can just check all those things against. There's another lady in the course. She and I have both found this exercise really, really valuable, and it has really helped us to get from clarity, to give us clarity of what we should be doing, instead of buzzing around like busy bees, sort of really not doing anything and wearing ourselves out. So, Rachel, that's about it. So I'll stop my share.
Thank you so much. I'll just, here we are. Now, Julie, that's just incredible. And again, hearing it for the second time, just really what makes me resonate with this work is such a priority that as a mum and employee and as a network marketer and everything, that my time is so valuable that I have to make sure the tasks that I'm doing have the impact that I want, and that they're also feeding my soul. And I mean by that is that I'm totally aligned with a true north, that the action I take is to do lines with my values, my mission, my goals, and everything I want to achieve in life. And Julie, look, you have shared with us in this last sort of 40 minutes, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of time that you've put in doing your own work about identifying your values, about identifying your goals, about reading a mission statement or creating a mission statement that resonates with who you are. And all these things do take time. And so for those of you that printed out Julie's booklet, is that there's room in the booklet that you can actually go and I think Julie could do a nice 4-hour workshop for us. I'll let you know when she agrees to this. I'll let you know. But, there's room on each page for you to actually Google mission and then write your own mission. Google how to identify your own values. I mean, we've all probably got personal development books on our shelves that actually have value identification exercises, that have role identification exercises, how to write your goals or to prioritize your goals. And I think once we've got those things that are really the essence of who we are, then creating a to-do list with tasks that we have to keep our life going, but then being able to work that to-do list, one, by asking some incredible questions like, if I do the things on this list, will it move me towards or away from my mission? I've never asked myself that, what I have to do as a mum or as a wife or as a nurse or whatever. And is it going to carry me forward to living my values? Yeah. And if there's something on the list that doesn't answer those questions as a yes, it probably needs to come off the list. Is that right, Julie?
Yes.
Yeah. To be true to that authentic self, so this task is, and learning this skill is absolutely just aligning us women to be, and men, whoever listen to this, to be true authentic selves. And we're learning in our book club that like attracts like, and we want true authentic people around our lives, And Julie, your little booklet, which is great because without hearing how to use the to-do list and prioritizing impact and prioritizing and like the 1 to 10 of ease and 1 to 10 of impact, and then placing it on the grid, and moving from that right hand corner down to see what is the most important and that needs to be done that has the most impact and move your life and your family forward. This little booklet is brilliant because it's all there for us to do. And then on the last page simply is to rewrite your to-do list in the right order and then go about doing it. You know, I love lists. I love ticking things off. So this really resonates with me, and I know I've got a bit more work to do in it around identifying my values and my strengths and my mission and my goals. So
And do you know, Paul was saying that he, like, he's a 70-year-old man. He's rather amazing, and he doesn't do anything. Like, he's been doing this coaching work for 30 to 40 years, and he's 70, and he's still like, you know, that little exercise I showed you. I talked about my experience with the file. He's still got things that come up, and he still does that process on himself, even through all the work that he's done. You think, oh, well, you know, this personal development work, once you've done it once, then you've got it, you know, and you're fine. But it's not like that. It's it's a lifetime thing, and things just pop up all the time, and it doesn't matter where you are. You know, you're and there's sometimes, he said, when he doesn't handle things correctly, and he's actually got a coach, and his coach is one of his ex-students. So there you go.
wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So, you know, I think personal development is a lifelong journey, as you just said,
Yes,
as well. And it's brilliant that, and Julie, I just really want to thank you for sharing transparently the few aspects of your Mannatech business, because you know I'm a lot younger in the business as well, and sometimes when I open my leads file, I feel some of those feelings around me not having rung somebody in the last even month or in the last 6 months. You know, so I don't think you're alone how long you've been in, that we all have these emotions. And you know, I think, you know, as you said, that you know, you might not have been true to your own heart agenda when you were originally recruiting, or you may not have been had the right intention when you were sharing something, but the what you want to do now is out of service. You know, and you know, there's a great Achiever Club incentives here in Mannatech as well, and what we all need to be doing is simply raise our level of service. So when an incentive comes along, we just fall over the line because we're actually serving so many people that we meet all the criteria for all the incentives anyway. You know, so it's not as if you have to have an agenda then. You've just got so much serving going on that you fall into these incentives.
And just getting back, and just something I wanted to say too is, Paul said when he's got all his stuff off the list, then if there's some sport that he likes to do or something like that he wants to do, well, he feels totally okay about sitting on the lounge and watching something, you know, some sporting event that he loves on TV, because he knows that he's done the work. So he's done the most important things for the day.
Well, and that's guilt-free time.
Yeah.
So, well, Julie, I thank you so much for the work you've done personally over the years, the work you've done tonight to put this talk together, and to give us a little workbook that we can take away and work in on our own time. And ladies and everyone on the call, if you're here later, if I ever get Julie that she'll agree to do a bit of a 2-hour workshop on identifying our values and goals and plans, and take us through those steps more thoroughly, we will. But if not, do your own personal development and find those things out, and then let's create some to-do lists that serve us and impact our lives massively. So wonderful. Well, thank you, Julie. I'm going to stay on the call. I'll stop the recording now. So thank you again.